This is Helen's lab report from 6 months ago. eGFR 34, stage 3, B chronic kidney disease. And this is Helen's lab report from last week. eGFR 58, stage 2, same woman, same kidneys, different choices. Today, I'm going to sit with you and read both of these reports side by side and show you every single thing that changed between them. Not in vague terms, not she ate healthier. I mean the specific numbers, the specific decisions, week by week, month by month. Because Helen isn't a special case. She's a 71-year-old woman from Ohio who was terrified, who almost gave up, and who did something that a lot of people in her situation don't do. She made one change at a time, and she tracked everything. Stay with me through this whole video because the thing most people miss is coming in the middle, and it might be the most important thing I've said in a long time. When Helen first reached out to me, she sent me her labs and a note that said, "My doctor told me to watch my protein. I don't know what that means." I hear that all the time. So let me show you where she actually was before anything changed. Her eGFR was 34. For context, that means her kidneys were working at roughly 1/3 of what they should be, not end stage, but serious enough that her nephrologist had already started talking about what comes next. Her creatinine was 1.8. Her BUN, that's blood urea nitrogen, a waste product your kidneys are supposed to filter out, was 28, higher than we want to see. Her blood pressure was averaging 148/88, and she was on one medication for it. Now here's what her days look like. Breakfast, 2 scrambled eggs, toast, sometimes orange juice. Lunch, usually a sandwich, deli turkey or tuna. Dinner, whatever her daughter made, often chicken or fish, sometimes red meat twice a week. That sounds reasonable, right? Most people would look at that and say that's a healthy diet. But here's the problem, and this is where I want you to really pay attention. Helen was consuming somewhere between 90 and 110 grams of protein per day. For a woman with stage 3B kidney disease, her kidneys were being asked to filter out waste from a protein load they simply could not handle anymore. She was also taking ibuprofen every single day for her knee pain. 400 milligrams, sometimes twice. She drank maybe 4 cups of water a day. 4. And she hadn't walked more than 10 minutes at a stretch in about 2 years. That was month 0. The first conversation we had was about protein, and I want to be honest with you here because I see a lot of content online that makes this sound simple. It isn't. Changing how much protein you eat is genuinely hard. It affects how full you feel, what you can order at a restaurant, what you reach for when you're tired. But it's also one of the most direct levers we have for reducing the workload on damaged kidneys. Here's what Helen changed. We brought her protein down from roughly 100 grams a day to about 50 to 55 grams. That's the target most nephrologists recommend for stage 3, somewhere around 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. But it wasn't just the amount, it was the source. We shifted away from deli meats completely. Processed meats are high in phosphorus, high in sodium, and they put a heavy burden on the kidneys. The tuna sandwich, gone. We kept eggs, but dropped from 2 whole eggs to 1 whole egg plus 1 egg white. Less phosphorus, same protein. We introduced more plant-based protein, not because plant protein is magic, but because it produces less acid load on the kidneys than animal protein does. Lentils twice a week, a small amount of tofu. Red meat went from twice a week to once every 10 days. By the end of week 4, Helen's BUN had already started moving. It came down from 28 to 23. That's her kidneys saying, "Thank you. The workload is lighter." She told me at week 3 that she was hungry more often. That's real, and I told her it would be. We worked through it with higher fiber vegetables to add volume without the protein burden. If you're sitting here wondering whether your protein intake is too high, I want you to think about this. Do you know your daily protein number? Most people with kidney disease don't, and most of them are eating far more than their kidneys can handle. I introduced the hydration piece at week 2, overlapping with the protein work, because they work together. Helen was drinking 4 cups of water a day. For a woman of her size and health status, we needed that closer to 6 to 7 cups, about 1.4 to 1.6 liters, spread consistently through the day. Now, before I go further, I need to say something I say every single time I talk about hydration and kidney disease. Do not dramatically increase your water intake without talking to your doctor first. If you have significant kidney disease or heart disease, too much fluid can be dangerous. You need to know your number. Helen checked with her nephrologist before we adjusted anything. For Helen, the goal was 6 cups, 1 when she woke up before coffee, 1 mid-morning, 1 with lunch, 1 in the early afternoon, 1 before dinner, 1 final cup by 7 p.m. Not later, because we didn't want her up all night. The timing matters as much as the amount. Sipping steadily is far more effective than drinking large amounts at once. She kept a small dry erase board on her kitchen counter with 6 circles drawn on it. Every cup she finished, she'd mark 1 off. Within 3 weeks, she said it was automatic. By week 8, her urine color, which I know isn't glamorous to talk about, but it's one of the best free indicators you have, had gone from deep yellow to a consistent pale straw color. That's exactly what we want to see. Her bun continued to fall. By week 8, it was down to 19. At the start of month 2, I encouraged Helen to go back to her doctor with a specific question. Not, is my blood pressure okay? But, given what's changed in my diet and how my labs are trending, is my current medication and dose still the right approach? That distinction matters. Asking a targeted question gets you a targeted conversation. Her nephrologist reviewed the home BP readings Helen had been logging in a notebook and decided to add a second medication. The reason wasn't that the first one wasn't working. It was that for someone with chronic kidney disease, getting blood pressure consistently under 130/80 is critical. Every point of pressure above that is quietly accelerating damage to the small vessels inside the kidneys. Helen's doctor made that call, not me. I helped Helen prepare for that conversation. The medical decision was her nephrologist's. By the end of month 2, her home readings had dropped to an average of 128/76, and her eGFR, which had been at 34 at the start, had climbed to 40. Not dramatic yet, but moving. Now, here's the part I mentioned at the beginning, the one most people miss. Helen had been taking ibuprofen every day for her knee pain. NSAIDs, the drug class ibuprofen belongs to, reduce blood flow to the kidneys. In someone with already compromised kidney function, regular NSAID use can meaningfully worsen the damage over time. This is not a small concern. It's one of the first things nephrologists ask about, and it is one of the most commonly overlooked pieces of the picture. Helen's doctor agreed she needed to transition off ibuprofen. The alternative they landed on was acetaminophen at an appropriate dose for her size. Acetaminophen, when used correctly, is significantly safer for the kidneys than NSAIDs. She also added daily gentle movement, 10 minutes of slow walking twice a day, not for fitness, for inflammation and circulation. The first 2 weeks without ibuprofen were hard. Her knee hurt more. She told me she almost went back to it. She didn't. By month 3, 2 things had happened. First, her body had adapted and the baseline pain was more manageable. Second, and this is the part that stopped me when I saw her labs, her creatinine had dropped from 1.8 to 1.5 in 3 months, without any new medication for her kidneys, just from removing something that was quietly damaging them every single day. So let me walk you through the full picture now. 6 months apart, side by side. Month 0, eGFR 34, creatinine 1.8, BUN 28, blood pressure averaging 148/88, about 100 grams of protein a day, 4 cups of water, daily ibuprofen. Month 6. eGFR 58, creatinine 1.4, BUN 16, blood pressure averaging 126/75, 52 grams of protein, 6 cups of water, no ibuprofen. When Helen's nephrologist saw these labs, she told Helen that this was one of the better 6-month progressions she'd seen in a patient at Helen's starting point. That is real. That is documented. I've seen the reports, but I also want to say this clearly because I think honesty matters more than hope in this conversation. eGFR improvement is not guaranteed. Some people stabilize, some people slow their progression significantly. A jump like Helen's, or from 34 to 58, is meaningful, and it is real, and it is also not a universal outcome. What I can tell you is what research and clinical experience both support. Reducing protein load, improving hydration, controlling blood pressure, and eliminating medications that harm the kidneys are the 4 best non-pharmaceutical levers most people with kidney disease are not fully using. Helen used all 4, so here's how I'd summarize it for you. Know your actual protein number and reduce it to what your kidney function can support, with guidance from your doctor or dietitian. Find out what your safe hydration target is and spread it evenly through the day. Have a specific, prepared conversation with your doctor about your blood pressure target and whether your current regimen is actually getting you there. And if you are taking ibuprofen or other NSAIDs regularly, even over the counter, bring that up. There may be a safer option for your situation. Now, the honest answer to the question you're probably asking, will this work for me the way it worked for Helen? I don't know, and anyone who tells you they do know is not being straight with you. What I can say is that these are not experimental approaches. They are standard, evidence-backed recommendations that are frequently under-implemented in real life, because nobody sits down and explains them the way Helen's team eventually did for her. The goal is not a miracle. The goal is to stop doing things that are harming your kidneys and start giving them a fighting chance. Helen wrote to me after she got those 6-month results. She said, "I didn't think I could do it. I thought I was just waiting." She wasn't waiting anymore. If someone you love is living with kidney disease and nobody has ever sat down and explained any of this to them, share this video with them. Not because I need the reach, because that conversation might actually matter to them. And if you're watching this for yourself, leave me a comment and tell me where you are right now, what stage you're at, what your biggest question is. I read them. I respond when I can. And sometimes your question is what shapes the next video. Next Sunday, James stopped 3 specific foods and his creatinine dropped measurably in 90 days. I'll show you his labs, I'll show you the foods, and I'll explain why those 3 things were the problem, which is not what most people expect. I'll see you then.